Hello, I'm Bruce Lorincz, and our program is Bruce on the Loose. And this show allows me to talk to a lot of various interesting people throughout the Wadsworth area. We have Kevin Wallick with us from CityLink and John Manning, the manager of WCTV. And thank you, gentlemen, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this afternoon, and looking forward to a lot of good information. Kevin, what about your background here in Wadsworth and CityLink in particular?
Well, I grew up in the area. I eventually went to work for a telco. I had a Bachelor of Arts in Communications. I went to work for one of the large telcos. I worked for them for a number of years. On the road, I covered 5 states. I was gone for weeks at a time from my family, and I really wanted to try to find something closer to home. So when I started to look in the area, there were only a few places of interest, Wadsworth being one of them because of the way their business was run and the fact that it was city-owned.
What about some of the services that CityLink does provide for our residents?
Yeah, so right now we offer obviously an internet product. We offer television, right through WCTV here. The John runs all of that. We've got great local programming, and we have phone service available. So in our industry, they would call it a single, double, or triple play, whether you had 1, 2, or all 3 of those services.
John, what about the history of WCTV and CityLink? You've been around the block a couple times, and you certainly do have a good grasp of the history.
Right, yeah. Well, we're quickly for CityLink. Back in the early to mid 90s, they were building a fiber optic ring to do some other things with it. But then Bill Lorincz Sr., because he's a real proponent that we had our own electric department, provide our own electricity to people that we could sell through a municipality. We had our own trash pickup and other things. So he found out that other cities were doing this. One in particular in Kentucky, so if the local cable company, you could really sell cable through a municipality for a lot less and then save your community a lot of money. So that's kind of how it got started in the beginning. A long story short, but that's how it got started. Then part of that fiber optic ring would be to provide cable. We went through the process of getting all the equipment and everything ready for it. And in 1997, January of 1997, we actually had our first customers hooked up and viewing cable.
There were limited opportunities for the residents to look at various channels, and that has certainly changed over the years. Can you tell me a little bit about the lineup today and the choices people have?
Sure.
John?
I mean, the lineup back then, we probably had 70 channels on the enhanced tier. Today, that's in the low 80s. But now we also have another 100 and some channels that are on digital, and then we have another 100 and some channels in HD that we provide. So most of the channels today are delivered in HD. Not all of them, but still 90% of them probably are delivered in HD. But the way the system's set up and the way the programmers and all the contracts are done, we still have to provide the standard definition as well as the high definition. So the industry as a whole is kind of in between. Do we want to go all HD, or do we want to force them to have the standard definition as well? So the industry as a whole is kind of in a conundrum right now anyway.
Kevin, what about the number of employees that CityLink has working for it, and in some of those positions, what do people, and I guess a lot of them live in the community?
Absolutely, the majority of them do. So we have installers. Those would be the people that go into the home to connect service for people. We have what we call cable technicians that would go out and work on what we term the plant, the outside cables, to make sure that things are functioning properly. Our maintenance here is tremendously good compared to other telcos who might put something up and it sits for 60 years without any kind of real genuine work or being replaced. So we have both of those teams. We have customer service representatives who take phone calls. Now, we've relocated them in the last several years down to City Hall across from all the utility billing. So a customer that comes in can sign up for electric when they move to town. They can also sign up for CityLink at the same time. They take all the incoming calls. And then depending on the nature of the call, it can also go to our technical CSRs. We have customer service reps who are the ones that are really good with the computers and modems and routers and figuring out any kind of individual problem. So we have those individuals as well. And we also have a construction crew that goes out and actually builds that plant and puts it up. So all of those components fit together, and then we've got WCTV employees over here. all of that's kind of part of the same family. We actually fit under the arm of electric here. So he had mentioned Bill Lyron Sr. Bill Lyron, his son is the superintendent or general manager over the electric now, and I report to Bill. So it's interesting that there's been a Lyron involved in this for pretty much since its inception.
You kind of hinted on your background and why you came to Wadsworth, but Wadsworth is real unique with the competition that we have. And not many communities in the area have their own cable system. So could you comment on that?
Well, it's very interesting that you picked up on that. First off, there aren't a lot of communities that are in electrical municipals themselves. So you've got a limitation to the number of those. There are actually only 2 in the entire state of Ohio that do both their own communications and electric, and Wadsworth is one of those. And it's terrific because we have, a choice for residents here, which helps to keep prices down and keep things competitive. I feel sorry sometimes for when I look out in the township, maybe areas that we didn't serve, where we reached out to the edge of the city limits. And some of the people in the township now, because they don't have a choice, where someone in town might be paying, $100, $120 for their bill, with that competitor out in the country, they're paying over $200. And that's because there's no competitor there. So John, having tracked those numbers for years, literally having this choice here has saved the residents of Wadsworth millions of dollars over the last 20 years.
John, I'm sure you have probably a handle on how many customers are with CityLink, and what has that been like over the last few years?
Yeah, we've actually got a little over 3,000 customers right now, and Kevin, internet, we're probably close to 5.
We're 5,200 roughly for internet and 3,000 for video.
Now, what about when we expand? Silver Creek Road, the expansion there, they've done various phases, and other parts of the city. John, how can we go ahead and add to CityLink customers in that regard?
Well, I'll let Kevin answer that because he's more into the build out.
So pretty much now, if we're going to offer electric in an area, so it's somewhere that the electric build is going to happen, we put our conduit in the ground at the same time that electric does. That saves the expense for most communication companies. Someone digs up the ground for electric, they put their stuff in, then someone else has got to come back and dig it up again for communications. Here, we use what's called joint trench, which saves on expense. Robert Patrick is very focused on how we try to save $1 here as the service director. So what we make sure we do is when that trench is open, we get our conduit in the ground at the same time. And so new developments like Tiburon and some of the others, we were able to provide services for. Now that they're moving into additional phases in those developments, we're already there ready to go.
John, since you worked with the cost for several years, there's certainly challenges that Wadsworth and the other community and other people have in regards to the costs. It seems like they've been rising the last several years.
Sure, I think one thing that people would be surprised about is that nothing's fair or equal in the cable business. So what I'm saying about that is that we buy our programming, about 80% of it, from a cooperative called the NCTC, the National Cable Television Cooperative. So that's a group of about 800 small cable systems. Total, all those systems have about 8 million cable subscribers. So we can buy the majority of our programming as if we have 8 million subscribers. So we do get a discount. However, Spectrum has like 23 million subscribers. So they get about a half a cent to a penny for every million subscribers. So if you multiply that out across every month for the top 100 networks, their cost for the same 100 channels is about $20 to $25 less than what we pay. So we have to pay more for the exact same programming than they do. I have a slide here that shows our rising wholesale programming costs. So you'll be able to see how our programming costs from the beginning was about $8 or so. And then you can see over the past 22 years or so, next year or into the future, into 2023, we're almost paying $100 wholesale for the top 100 channels. So that's just an amazing increase that the networks are charging us hand over foot for that programming. Whereas Spectrum and some of the other larger systems that have 20 million subscribers are paying a lot less than us. And that's why they can have these bundles and charge a lot less, because they're making a lot more on their cable product than what a municipality is.
And Kevin, I also understand that some of our local channels, 3, 5, and 8, that used to be minimal cost or no cost at all, have really increased a great deal.
Yeah, now this is not going to make a lot of sense to your viewers. This is sort of like if you throw a left hook, you lean into it, because it's very counterintuitive. But basically, an over-the-air signal, which is how we get signal for the local stations, is free if you just pick it up over the air. But because we want to make it available on our system, we pay what's called a retransmission fee. Now, when we started that back in '97, it was a very small number. For example, as recently as 2009, that retransmission fee for the stations you would know, Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8, Channel 19, averaged about 35 cents per subscriber. So since 2009, it may not sound like it's that much. It's gone to $3.50, but it's a huge increase. It's in the thousands of percent is what it works out to be. But here's where the number gets a little crazy. $33,000, okay, is what we originally started out. The percentages you see there, anywhere from 1,100% to 1,900%. I mean, that sounds crazy. Imagine that on a loaf of bread. But in 2009, those transmission costs would have been roughly $33,000 for us to pay that bill. Now it's over $500,000 a year.
What extra services have they provided? I mean, if you're increasing it that much, you would think that they would have gift wrapped more programs or something.
Right. So what happens now is that there are two groups that are battling. Basically, there's the National Association of Broadcasters. They want to be able to collect that money. They use that to subsidize the programming that they do. That's why you look at Channel 8 and see they have a brand new studio that they're always bragging about, and those things come about because of the money that they collect from retransmission. And then you have the American Cable Association, who's trying to limit those costs. And the argument that we are making is that basically you are subsidizing these stations on the local taxpayers' back, on the local viewers' back, and that's not right. So there's hopes at some time that law will change. It's going to require a change with your politicians to get that changed.
John, you used to negotiate and still, have given your knowledge to Kevin. Mm-hmm. Can somehow some years we kind of meet in the middle if they've asked for a high increase?
Well,
and then
as far as most of our agreements through the NCTC, those are pretty much cut and dried. But we do negotiate ourselves for the over-the-air channels, and it's really, calling it a negotiation is not quite right, because what happens is that we reach out to them in October every 3 years. So next October in 2020, we'll reach out to them. We probably won't hear from them until the end of November. Then they'll send us what their rates are, and then we'll send our counter offer back. We won't hear from them again until like the end of December. The day before the contracts have to be signed, and they'll say, "Hey, here's your offer, take it or leave it, because next week, if you don't sign this, I'm going to pull my channel off your cable system." So that's kind of how they negotiate.
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of last minute, and it really isn't a fair level playing field.
Nothing's
I guess
fair
you could
or
say.
equal in the cable business, that's for sure.
And you've seen that even with the larger companies, the AT&Ts, Comcast, Spectrum. Now, when they've had these negotiations, they've gotten very contentious, and because of that, there have been outages, blackouts. And of course, the TV station is putting on to the viewers that, hey, if you want to see this, call your cable operator. Well, there's two sides to that story.
Sure.
It seems like, that happened a couple years ago. The football season ready to start, and
they're good at timing those things around things like that.
Certain communities said, well, we may not be able to see our home club, and that gets people really excited, doesn't it, Kevin?
It does, even with the way our local teams are playing, the professional teams I'm referring to, yes.
I know. Now, John, I think we have a video that we need to take a look at. Can you describe what that is?
Yeah, what we want to show is, Kevin's going to talk a little bit about the future after the video, but we want to show people and just have them be aware of what's coming, what's going to change your life in the future. So it's a real cute video.
All driven around communications.
Correct. All driven
connectivity.
Connectivity. How many things are going to be connected in your life at some point, and that's coming very, very soon. So we can take a look at that.
Come on, Cookie. I don't know how you're supposed to feel at 86, but I don't think I feel like I'm 86.
That's Surprise!
People make my world go round. I fear isolation and being cut off. If I am alone somewhere and I had no one to talk to, no one to share anything with, I bet you I would just dry up and blow away. I call this my smart house. We got sensors in all the rooms. I swallow them. I wear them. Doc knows what's going on with me. I don't have to go to the clinic anymore. I call him up. He's not back in the horse and buggy days.
Looks like you had a pretty active week, huh?
I'm feeling it too. Hey guys, how do you like your ride? Knowing I got eyes on me gives me the confidence to keep me being who I am, doing what I want to do. Frees me up. Takes the worry away. I don't have to worry about Paige, my daughter.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, kiddo, what's up?
I'm just checking in.
Because I know she's not worried about me.
No,
She's always busy, work and kids. But she can see exactly how I'm doing.
I love you, Dad.
That she knows how I feel before I do. Cookie has become my buddy,
Time for your pill, Jim.
my wingman. Hey, Cookie, what time is that car going to be here?
2 minutes. It's cold out. Might want to bring a coat.
It's like he has a brain. Now, what are you doing, Cookie?
It's a quick.
I have come to rely on him. I know I can trust him, and he's got my back. I lost Ellen, my wife, 10 years ago. So many good times, so many memories. Losing her was really tough. If we had had for her then what we have for me now, she would have been in a much better place. I miss her so much. Here, not too long ago, I was experiencing those dizzy spells. The doctor had provided a scan for me at home, so I didn't have to go out to the clinic or anything.
They have those scans for that patient. Take a look.
And that scan revealed that I had an aneurysm. I saw this specialist, a surgeon, and she explained to me we wouldn't have a messy operation. They inject these nanobots and they go into your system.
Basically, we're going to send in an army of nanobots at the aneurysm.
And they find where the aneurysm is and
Fixing it.
they seal it off. I get a kick out of thinking that I have a whole bunch of nanobots swimming around up here in my brain, doing what they're supposed to do. I wasn't in a hospital. I was back home.
Oh dear.
I was back home where I want to be, where I belong. The help that I have allows me to stay here in my home. Who is that? Do you remember? The guy in the back.
Who is that?
Have my friends here,
That's Pete.
my family, and I don't want to give that up. I don't want to be in a nursing home. The quickest way to lose your independence is to go where you don't have any independence. That's the truth.
Kevin, that was very interesting promotional video, and really, the gentleman seemed familiar to me. Can you help me to tell me who that was?
Yeah, the reason he looks familiar is that's Ron Howard's father, Reese Howard.
Isn't that something?
It was actually the last acting job that he took before he passed.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Thank you for sharing that information. And so the future that was partly what we're looking at, and maybe my generation will be having some of those devices.
And it's really all about connectivity. So what happens here that's a little different than today, there's a lot of technology like this that exists. The ability to make that technology work in the home is dependent on a really robust connection. Now, right now, the way the cable system works, and keep in mind that we put up our first fiber here in 1993. So when you start thinking about the age of that fiber and the life cycle of some of those products, it might be time to start replacing some of that infrastructure. If you do that, do you replace it with a cable and type of environment like we had here, or do you consider doing fiber because there's some benefits to fiber like you saw in this video? A lot of what they're talking about there revolves around being able to upload a lot of information. Now, right now, we request a lot of information from the internet, so there's a lot of download. We watch movies that we're having that information sent to us. We listen to music. We research things. We read about things online. So in the future, more of that information needs to head upstream, and it's that upload that is challenged on a cable system, where fiber has what they call symmetrical bandwidth. So if you're providing 500 meg, like our fastest package now, that has currently a 25 meg upload speed. So it's 500 over 25. Well, clearly you'd hit the 25 a lot quicker. Fiber would do 500 over 500, or 1 gig, so 1,000 over 1,000. So it would provide a lot more opportunity. That gets you to autonomous vehicles. It provides the opportunity. My father's 84, and we're looking at quality of life issues for him now. And if he didn't have to go to the doctor to have some of these scans and these tests, and he could do it in the comfort of his home and have the support of his family around him, that's a better quality of life. And I want to be able to provide those opportunities so people can live their last years on their terms.
Yeah, it seemed like, John, the medical area was really focused in on that with the gentleman had an aneurysm, and they focused in. They knew exactly where it was, what they needed to do, and it wasn't that they were going to do it in a couple months. They did it almost instantaneously.
Sure. I don't think people really realize today. I mean, if you look back 10 years ago, if you had 5 meg speed on your internet service, you were probably in with 80% of the U.S. households. Now, I think 60, 70% of U.S. households have access up to 1 gig. And that'll, you talk about things increasing, that'll increase, quite a bit over the next 5 to 10 years. In 10 years, you're going to need a whole heck of a lot of bandwidth coming into your home, because even today, people don't realize that their watch is connected, their phone's connected, their refrigerator's connected, their stove's connected, their stove hood, their dishwasher's connected, their washing machine's connected, their coffee machine's connected, everybody that has a phone in the house connected. They have devices in their home today that they don't even know is connected, but it is. It's connected to your internet service. So,
and the video really talked about as a senior citizen living alone, but it really has implications for a married couple, children, and it's really going to be used by all sorts of different people.
In the example of the video, you will never really be alone. You'll just be one touch, whether you touch something on your glasses and can talk to somebody, or whether you just ask a device, hey, certain device, show me my daughter, or call my son. You will never actually be alone, so to speak.
What other challenges, Kevin, does CityLink and WCTV face possibly in the future? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but certainly there are some things out there that you're concerned about.
So we've touched on one of them, and that being the rising cost of content. So how do you deliver that content? Is there a more economical way to do that? Streaming options. What can we bring to the residents here that will improve that and lower the expense of that? So we're looking at a lot of those things right now, and hoping that there'll be some changes in the industry as well while we're looking at those. There will be the continued need for the growth of bandwidth, especially on the upload side. So how do we do that? Most likely we do that by moving fiber closer and closer to the home. Whether you build it entirely to the home, or you just get closer where we have a node that covers an area, maybe you get down more to a couple of streets. All of those things will make it easier to add more bandwidth. So those are the initial concerns. The other one I would mention is the average consumer who doesn't have a lot of technical understanding. All they know is, like, when they go to start the car, they push the button, it starts, it's a good thing. If it doesn't, maybe it's time to buy a new car. So if they can't connect to the internet, whether it's a problem with their computer or they think it's something with our network, which we can look at and go, well, we know it's not the network. The bottom line with that is the consumer's opinion is, it's our problem, we need to fix it. So maybe looking at a managed Wi-Fi type of application where we can see into their home and go, oh, here's the problem, I can fix this for you.
I need to make a comment that I really appreciate, and a lot of people do, whereby the billing that we get from Wadsworth, everything is there. It's a bundled system, and you don't have to pay 5 or 6 different entities, and people, and I especially appreciate that.
Yeah, for electronic banking, it really does make it terrific. The other real benefit there is there's never going to be any secret in this city. The way things work, anytime we want to ask for, say, an increase in a price, everything has to be approved by council. It goes through 3 readings. There's 30 days notice to the public before there's ever any change. So unlike our competitor, who just changes the price in a bill, and you open up the bill, and if you happen to look at it, then you realize that they charged you more. If it was electronic banking and you didn't look at it, more came out of your account, you just weren't aware of it. So here, you will always know in advance of any price increase what's going to happen.
So people might have a slight increase coming up first of the year, but it's something that we're trying to minimize as much as we can.
We'll try to minimize it, and we'll try to make sure we add some type of value as a part of that process.
Well, I appreciate, gentlemen, what a show today. We really got a lot of information, and I sure appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. And thank you for viewing Bruce on the Loose. We have several shows on the horizon. We have a speech and debate possibility, also fish, and also we need to get John and Joanna here from WCTV. It would be kind of different for them because they would be guests versus behind the camera. And thank you for viewing this series.